and I can just have people let in as they come. Is that cool with everybody? Is anyone actually on spring, Cornelia, is your kids, anyone's children on spring break, family on spring break?
Next week, and I scheduled his wisdom teeth extraction for his.
Oh, you're the meanest mom in the world.
Mom.
Mean
Just-
mom.
Just to note, I did hit live stream, so we're ready.
Okay, great, and welcome everyone.
And Dr. Brooks, you are not a mean mom. Just
No,
want to put that on record.
I appreciate the
Welcome to
clarification.
the Opportunity Youth
I
Academy
was
Governance
kidding.
Council. This meeting is officially in order. And we will start with the roll call. I'm Dr. Jessica Banderas, and I will be chairing the council today.
Damaris Brooks, Director of Workforce Development and Organizational Culture.
Joelle Hanson, CTE Coordinator or County Office of Education.
Courtney Portell, Staff Ally with the Youth Liberation Movement.
Catherine?
Oh, sorry, Catherine Everett, Assistant Principal for Opportunity Youth Academy.
Great. And
Bill Morales, Director of Opportunity Youth Academy.
okay, thank you very much. We will next go to the adoption of the agenda. Can I get a motion to adopt the agenda, please?
I motion for adopting January's agenda. Or I mean, April's agenda.
I'll second.
Thank you. Next, item 2, are there any public comments, Dr. Morales, or Director Morales?
There are no comments at this time, Dr. Banderas.
All right, thank you. Let's move on to our consent action items. The motion to approve the January 6th minutes. That's the last time we were together, January 6th. You were all sent the minutes previously.
I motion to, that's what I originally, I motion to accept the January 6 minutes.
I'll
I
second.
second.
Great, thank you. And now we have our informational items. So the first item we have is the college and career update. Dr. Morales, or Director Morales, are you presenting on this?
I am, yes. Thank you, Dr. Banderas. And this is a presentation that we provided at our last board meeting, that we presented at the last board meeting with Dr. Dewan. And so let me just get this set and ready. I'm hoping you all can see this. Is that?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and I'll let. And Derek just entered the
great.
Zoom.
Welcome, Derek.
Hey, Derek.
Oh, sorry. I was clicking everything that says got it. Okay.
No worries.
Welcome, good to see you.
Hey, it's good to see you guys too.
We are about to have a presentation on college and career update.
Oh, this is awesome. Okay.
Yes. So like I said, this was a presentation that Linda Ahmed, who is our college and career liaison, presented to Dr. Dewan at our last board meeting. And so I thought it was such great information. I wanted to bring it to the Governance Council, and I'll be doing the presentation, not Linda tonight. So our college and career liaison that we hired on, I want to say about 2 years ago, two and a half years ago. It was a very new position to OYA, and so we were building the position as we started it. And so these are some of the services, some of the key services that position or Linda provides to our students. A lot of it is the one-on-one conversations about academic and kind of the academic and life goals after high school. The one-on-one career exploration, post-secondary exploration, which is a significant part of her job, is working with our juniors and seniors and preparing them for post-secondary. So a lot of transition planning happening with between her and the students. A first-year support. This is really important for our graduates. We currently have about 75, 80 students that are in community college, a first year, so they're graduates. And so she spends a lot of time, at least 2 days rather, out of the week, spending a lot of that time with them, checking in, seeing if what supports do they need, connecting them with community college supports, also inviting them back to OYA. So if we have tutors that we're working with right now, and so those are the graduates have access to the tutors as well. And so she does spend a lot of time working with those students just because it's a scary transition for them. And so we want to be sure that they have the supports they need to be successful in that first year. And not just all the students in community college, students that are, going into a trade school or that are still trying to understand what their next step is. So she also has contact with those students as well. Presentations at post-secondary options of students. We just did 2 presentations on dual enrollment and Metro Ed services. And as a result of those 2 presentations, we saw our numbers of students increase in enrollment in both those programs. And then build relationships with community colleges and then assist in creation, implementation of all of our programs, workshops, new student orientation, CT pathways. And again, this is just a small list of the larger list. So as this says, we have about 45% of our total graduates have transitioned to community college or trade school. The majority of them are being the first in their families to enroll in college. So there is that need to support. A lot of it is, again, navigating or helping them navigate through the system. Currently, we have 7 students are dual enrolled at De Anza College for spring quarter, the highest number of our students in a cohort to date. And that has gone up a little bit. I think we were probably averaging right around 9 to 10 students in dual enrollment, which is it's a highest number we've had. These are the majors and pathways that our students are pursuing. So it's really all over. I'm not going to read all of these for you, but the main ones truly are the medical. That is always a very popular major for our students. HVAC is also another popular industry or area. Cosmetology, computer science, not so much. Hospitality is also another area that our students are pursuing in those areas. This is all tied to our LCAP goal number 3. That's something that we are going to continue to keep in our LCAP goal for next year, and the action services under that. As he said, currently 57%, so that's 31 out of 54 students current right now. They have a transition plan that were created by or worked with through the College and Career Liaison. 83% of those transition plans include community college. The College Liaison, which is great, is now rotating through our sites and meeting students at all of our 6 sites and doing post-secondary planning. I've asked her to really focus on our juniors and seniors who are closer to the end of graduation, and then try to work backward and pick up the freshmen and the sophomores. But the immediate need right now is really with our juniors and seniors. We have 15 students enrolled in Metro Ed for next year, more than what we actually were really shooting for. We were looking at 6 or 7, but now as of today, Kipsia, who is working with our students who are interested in Metro Ed, she has enrolled 15 students for the fall of 2022. So we're very excited about that opportunity. And the counselor also, Kipsia, is rotating through sites, doing some academic planning and primarily tracking students, making sure that they're on track to graduate with their credits. Our next steps, we want to finalize our OYA work-based learning continuum, something that we started with ConnectEd. And it is a 4-phase continuum, starting with career exploration, college and career exploration, industry exploration, just doing some basic, what are you interested in? All the way to job shadowing, internships, apprenticeship programs. That is kind of the continuum we want to follow and we're building out right now. Right now, I've asked or I've put in a job description and establish a position of work-based learning coordinator. And this is something that Joelle and Dana and I and Catherine have been talking about. And this position is very, very important to help us push forward in implementing that continuum, but also helping us make the connections with industry leaders, industry partners, college representatives, so we can build our dual enrollment. Also working with our teachers on how do we help students follow through that continuum, start working on a project-based learning plan. So having a full-time coordinator to help us manage that, I think, is very important for the work that we're trying to establish moving forward. Establishing an advisory CTE committee. This is something that Joelle had started a few years ago, and we want to continue, or at least, I don't know if you want to call it rebuild. Joelle, do you want to talk about that a little bit on what the plan is with our CTE committee?
Sure, it's the CTE Advisory Committee. It's actually through Ed Code a requirement when you have CTE programs. But the idea behind it is that you have a percentage or a quorum of representatives from teachers, students, parents, administrators, and industry and post-secondary, with industry being a part of the advisory on curriculum development, so that the CTE programs and courses offered are more aligned to current industry needs, especially when you're looking at the model standards for whatever program or course the student is taking in CTE. So it's just to ensure that our local industry is advising us on the best ways to prepare students to be skilled in that pathway when they exit the program and the school and can be hireable. So the idea is to have this dynamic way of ensuring that we as an entity are preparing students in current real-time industry needs. So we have to be twice a year. And I think we're looking at the fall, trying to get our committee together by fall.
Thank you, Joelle. And the committee will support AED and OYA. So we're very excited about this partnership and building this advisory committee. We're finalizing our graduate profile. You know how schools have ESLers and then now they're SLOs. And so, you know, that we have to have our ESLers and SLOs, but they're pretty general and broad. And so we started to talk about having more of a graduate profile that is reflective of the type of student that we want or that we feel need to graduate from OYA. And so we are at a point now that we have a graduate profile. We're doing some fine tuning to it and being very specific about what we feel our students need to have at the end of their time with OYA. And so that has been the work that Catherine has been leading with some of our teachers and staff. And so, as I said, they're working on that. We'll be able to present that to you probably at the end of the year. And then that will be part of our WASC for next year when we have our visits. That was one of the action items that we put in place. And then the hope is that in the fall of 2022, that we will be able to implement 2 pathways, our health pathway and our ICT pathway. They've been built out. And so we are ready to implement, but like anything, we want to be sure that we've got all the supports in place and we know that we are prepared to do that lift. And that is what I
Bill?
just, yes,
Can I ask a question?
absolutely.
When you all were creating the graduate profile,
Mhm.
did students participate in creating that at all?
It came out, no, not so, no, not yet. We took it from, a lot of this was taken from our ESLers and our SLOs through our WASC process from last year. And so we're using some of those points, but we're just getting a little more fine tune on it. That is not so broad. We're trying to get it very specific. So not necessarily on this profile, but on the ESLers, yes, and the SLOs, yes.
What is slow?
Slow means school, I'm sorry, town.
School learning objectives,
Yeah, there you go.
Oh,
learning or student learning outcomes. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool, thank you.
So for example, there is, there in our ESLers, there's, we're talking about, college readiness. Well, in the graduate profile, we get very specific about what does that mean. So does it mean having a post-secondary plan in place? What specifically do we want to know, or to be sure that a student has college and career readiness? What does that actually mean for that student? That answer your question, Courtney?
Yeah, and I wonder if there's an opportunity to just run that profile,
Sure.
with some students and just getting some feedback, and be interesting to see if they, had anything else to provide that we might have overlooked.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great idea. We will do that.
Phil, hey, I just wanted to say to everyone, because I kind of was there when this process all started, like with Dr. Dwayne, and really just trying to find some spots at that time. And the whole goal was just at that time to identify all the young people to go back to get their high school diploma. And I'm very excited today about the progress that have been made and where it's kind of going. Like when you had presented this and stuff, I just got really excited about the work that has been put in, and knowing the history of it and where it came from, and how much dedication and people working together, to kind of even make this ARE reality. And I know there's more work to be done, but I, from a history point, because I was there from the beginning, and I, know what it took even to get to this point. And I just want to congratulate you guys on this right here, because I think this is what the dream was actually about. But it just took some time to kind of get there, because we were all energetic and thought, wow, this is gonna be really great. It's gonna, in a year or two, this is really gonna kick off, and not realizing, our young people don't follow the book, that we got planned.
Yeah.
But I just want to congratulate everyone. I am really excited about, that these steps are being taken and is being linked to college and workforce development and all those parts right there, that really put you guys on par with other programs that may be similar, and maybe even take you even over the top. So thanks.
And thank you, Derek. I really do appreciate that. And in fact, that's what you just said was what Dr. Dewan said at the board meeting. And the vision, the original vision of OYA was not high school completion. It was post-secondary, and making sure that students move beyond that. So I thank you so much. And I will share that with the staff, because they are truly doing the big lift. The teachers and the navigators and Catherine and the whole group have brought our students to this point, and are really pushing forward. That being said, I do want to share that I didn't put on here, but I will email it out to you. June 1st, we are having a college and career fair. It's a virtual and in-person fair, and we do have community colleges that will be here, as well as employers. Santa Clara County Office of Education will be here as well. And so we will be having a huge fair that day, and it's a lot of planning going on. And I just got an email from one of our navigators, and there's supposed to be some mobile bus coming for employment through I forget who, but But I'll send the information out to you, the flyer, and so you can share that with some of your colleagues as well. But thank you, Derek. I appreciate that.
Great. Thank you, Phil, for the presentation.
You're welcome.
It really is exciting work moving beyond, just high school completion into the workforce and providing that lever, right? Instead of just counting, okay, now you're done with your high school diploma, go get a job. It's bringing everyone to the students and really supporting them with that post-secondary. So it's really wonderful work.
Phil, can you go back to the slide that described Linda's role?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I collapsed it, Courtney. Let's see.
It was just there.
No, it was, but I think I closed it.
Oh,
That's okay. That's fine. Let me. I found it. Just do this. Oh. Yeah, this one here, is that correct?
yeah. I just, under the first year support, like that's just such a huge, like that in and of itself can be a full-time job.
Mhm.
And what we learned with the Opportunity Works pilot is that it's way more bigger and deeper than, the connecting to the on-campus supports and getting their classes in place. And you have here a little bit about providing emotional support, motivation to keep going.
Mhm.
I don't know if you're going to share this presentation with anybody else in the future, but I might want to add a little bit more in there around so much of the support that happens with supporting like first gen college students is around like navigating imposter syndrome or not feeling like you belong on campus.
Mhm.
And one bad day can make you want to just leave and drop out, one bad moment. And I just think that that can get overlooked sometimes because it's kind of hard to how do you codify that or talk about that in like a programming way. But I just feel like that might be important to add a little bit about that piece of it. And it's so much as like about exploring your identity and confidence building. And that is takes a lot of time and it's hard work.
Yeah. And correct. And I talking to Linda about her experience working with those students, she does tell me that a lot of times it is taking those phone calls and talking to a student who wants to stop or quit or doesn't feel that they're capable of being a college student. And so there is a lot of time that she spends doing more of that work. The other time is making sure, and particularly like right now, I know that last night she was working with students who were just started De Anza because their quarter started yesterday. So a lot of it was, okay, do you know where you're going? Do you know where the next class, some of that stuff. But then as they start moving on, then it is that, okay, I'm available, let me help you through this. I think to some degree, she even will look at assignments before, they turn it into their professors. So yes, that first year support it probably can be a full-time position just for that. And that is from that back on track model, as you know, Courtney, and that, that third year, that last phase. Yeah, but you're right.
Phil, a quick question here, because these are really great services. My question is because I know firsthand of how much work is going to need to go into building these support services. What type of ratios are you guys looking at, like as far as your education navigators and your academic counselor when they get to a point where you need another person? Because I bring it up because that's a mistake we kind of made here at Bill Wilson Center, you know, where we kind of build it out, but we forgot about, we were stressing out our staff. So, and, you know, and so are you guys gonna be looking at certain ratios compared to funding about, okay, when this academic council get to this particular level of students, we need to look at some other avenue for bringing someone else on?
Yeah, that's a great question. And we are probably close to hitting that mark. We're close to being at 380 students. Wow. And that's 380 to 1. I mean, when you get one counselor and one, yeah. And it's funny because I've had this conversation with people and they go, well, you know, in comprehensive high school, you know, most counselors are, you know, 600 to 1 or 500 to 1. And then I have to remind them, but we have a different population. We've got adult students, we've got at-risk students. So there's a lot more, there's a bigger need to be with those students more one-on-one versus class-wise when they're moving from one grade level to another. So yeah, we are at that point, but as you know, funding is always the big, how do we fund it? You know, our ADA has to go up because our ratio is very different. It's not your typical, you know, show up or in-seat type funding or ADA funding. It's a little different, and we can only claim so much. And, you know, that's not to say that we don't have the support of Dr. Banduras or Dr. Dewan, but it does get down to making sure that we can justify that the need for that personnel to support our staff.
The community colleges are, you know, because are the community colleges willing to partner with you on funding, like in some of these support services? Because there, you know, there is money there, and they're looking at, you know, kind of building those pathways.
You know, I haven't really pursued those options, and that's something I will do now that you bring that up. And I think it's, and maybe, and I'm not the expert in that area, and I will lean on Joelle to help navigate that for me. But yeah, I'm sure there's probably some options there that we can look into and see how we can partner with community colleges to do that. Yeah, I know. Like, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say there's some number ones out there. There's like, for instance, like Teresa An, OONG at Foothill College. You know, like it's one. You know, there's also Rafaela. I forgot her last name, but I can find it basically. But we're in a work group together, and so they're doing a lot of different things. I know Joelle probably knows these people too, or either some of them basically. And so they're looking at different type of ways because this supports their overall strategic plan too. And so OYA needs to be one of the programs on the tip of their lips and in their minds. God, because right now maybe they think of, you know, I'm just putting it out there, other programs, you know, besides OYA, but with this support system, right, it'll be great if they could put some funding into it for some of these positions that can be dual positions, kind of going back and forth.
Yeah. Thank you for that, Derek.
Any other items for this on this topic? Our next presentation is under information item B, continuous improvement year 1. I know, Catherine, you are presenting on this. This is the presentation of the ILP, the Individual Learning Plan Advisory Sessions.
Yep, thank you.
Give me a second here, Catherine. Okay. Sorry. Okay.
Great, thank you. So today I'd like to present on year 1 of our individual learning plan advisory sessions. We call these ILP advisory sessions. These critical sessions are held quarterly with teachers and their students to review a student's academic progress and other non-related school needs. Sessions are done either in person or virtually based upon student request. And I'll present our progress through the lens of improvement science, specifically by our use of the PDSA cycle. Next slide.
Sorry.
That's okay. The quarterly ILP advisory sessions are directly connected to the first goal in our LCAP. This goal is focused on students participating in rigorous, relevant, and engaging instruction. The targeted measurable outcome for the ILP advisory sessions include review of a student's experience during the quarter, which includes current academic progress, progress on short and long-term goals, and review of Renaissance Star reading and math assessment scores. And if a student is an English learner, teachers will review the most recent LPAC assessment scores. Next slide.
Am I on the right slide?
Yeah, you are.
Okay, okay.
The ILP advisory sessions are also linked to Goal 1 of our Western Association of Schools and Colleges accreditation. That's the 2020-2026 action plan, which focuses on the success of our English learner students. Within the ILP advisory sessions, teachers engage students not only in reviewing their current progress, recent assessment scores and goals, but also it affords teachers an opportunity to assess speaking skills development. Our staff have had significant professional development opportunities this school year. Next slide. We've had 3 separate organizations supporting our efforts throughout this year. The Santa Clara County Office of Education's Differentiated Assistance and District Support Department has led our data improvement team through professional learning on cycles of improvement using the PDSA cycles. The Santa Clara County Office of Education's English Language Department coordinator has offered professional learning opportunities to our teachers in support of their understanding of the LPAC assessments and content progression through our ELD Edge curriculum. In partnership with the National Geographic and Cengage Learning, teachers were offered several half-day training sessions on the ELD Edge curriculum during the first semester of this school year. The Santa Clara County Office of Education's Inclusion Collaborative coordinators have been working closely with our paraeducators over the past 2 years, offering training in universal design for learning with emphasis on supporting our English learners. Finally, the Carnegie Foundation is working with our administrative team this year in support of their efforts to guide and support the OYA data improvement team. Next slide. And this one you'll probably click on a few times. Yeah. The data improvement team went through a number of exercises to develop a problem of practice. These included development of an impact and control matrix, a theory of action chart, development of a communication plan, a system of measures chart, and a fishbone diagram. All were focused on narrowing our focus for the year, which would give us our aim. Next slide. An aim statement is a target for improvement and defines how you will measure the success of your effort and where that effort will be focused. Next slide. The data improvement team's aim statement for the 2021-2022 school year can be found in the upper green box. By June 2022, 100% of teachers will meet with 70% of their students 4 times a year to complete a data dialogue within the ILP advisory course. To accomplish this aim, we identified 4 leverage points in the system, which are identified in the pink boxes. These leverage points are called drivers. Below the drivers are changes the team wanted to introduce into the current system. Next slide. To guide our learning as we implemented the targeted changes, we used a PDSA cycle, which is a basic method of inquiry. The PDSA cycle follows the logic of systematic experimentation. The heart of the cycle is articulating hypotheses based on a working theory of the improvement we seek while gathering data to test each hypothesis. Each cycle houses predictions, comparisons, analysis of gaps, adjustments to practice, and a true building on what was learned in previous cycles until the team has discerned how to effect improvements reliably. The PDSA cycle is a very flexible and reliable tool when attempting to affect change. Next slide. At this time, the data improvement team has several PDSAs running concurrently and are moving us toward our aim statement. I'd like to take this time to present our ELD ILP advisory PDSA cycles. Next slide. In the ELD ILP advisory PDSA, we began our first cycle focused on teachers and their understanding of the LPAC website. You can click once. Thank you. Not only were we wanting them to understand the LPAC website, but the tasks the students would be performing within each domain test. This focus would support teachers as they discuss LPAC scores with our English learner students during the ILP advisory sessions. It was during this cycle that the English language domain matrix was introduced. There was substantial support for the matrix from the teachers, which allowed us to adopt it. Our focus for the second cycle was to gather data related to how comfortable teachers felt discussing LPAC or STAR reading scores with students during the sessions. During this cycle, more designated English learner development training was held with teachers, along with training on the EDGE curriculum. During this cycle, we also observed fewer students completing the advisory sessions with their teachers and a significant drop in students completing the student survey. We were able to have conversations with teachers who indicated the current form used to document the sessions lacked flexibility, and they asked if we could make it more adaptable to the conversations teachers were having with students. The form was adapted according to the feedback received, and it is currently being used during the Q3 sessions. This brings us to the third and current cycle. During this cycle, the newly adopted form is being used. Videos have been posted showing changes made to the form and where to locate the student response and student survey spreadsheets. This cycle will be assessed during the week of April 11th. You might be wondering how we documented each cycle and identified each of the areas mentioned. Next slide, please. This is done within a form called Testing Your Plan. Oh, click one more time and one more time. So we have a fourth cycle we're coming up to. So this is how we document is within a form called Testing Your Plan and represents each of the PDSA parts. The plan portion takes up the top 3 sections of the form and goes over what's being tested, who's going to conduct the test, when it's going to be conducted, how you're going to come together to discuss the results, and then also what questions will the test answer for your team. And in that place, we're identifying the learning goal of the test itself. And corresponding to the learning goals, what data will you collect and how will you collect it? Finally, what predictions do you have? Here you are making specific predictions about what you think will happen. This is critical because it's often in evaluating and analyzing the differences between your predictions and the actual results that our greatest learnings occur. And we did find that to be the case in each one of our cycles. Then you do the test. So you document what was done, and the next step is studying. What did we observe or collect? Here we record what actually happened. We give a narrative of the implementation, the data collected, and the obstacles that we incurred during the test. The last section represents the act. When we say, this is where we document what we learned about the implementation of the test and what our next steps are. And we also determine in this step whether we're going to adopt, adapt, or abandon that portion of the test. Next slide. The ILP advisory PDSA is in its third cycle. Cycle 1 went from August through October and was centered around initial training for the ELD EDGE curriculum and initial work with our EL development coordinator. At the end of the cycle, teachers adopted the EL domain graphic organizer and were able to use the graphic organizer with their EL caseload. Cycle 2 ran from November through December and was to test the comfort level of teachers discussing LPAC or Renaissance STAR scores with their students it was during this cycle that we identified their reservations about the documentation form and their interest in having it adapted. And after the one-on-one interviews that we had with teachers, it was found that they actually were using the discussion form verbatim and not as a guide. So we went in and we did a few modifications to it to make it more adaptable to the teacher needs. And they were using it in this quarter. So cycle 3 of our PDSA started in January and will end actually tomorrow. Tested during this cycle is whether an increase in the number of sessions will occur. And our target was 100% of the teachers taking part and a total of 200 students in this particular session. We also identified a goal of 75% of the students having discussed their test scores with the students. And let's see, next slide. During the first quarter, so here's some data on the numbers that we had. So during the first quarter, we had 9 teachers hold 124 ILP advisory sessions. Out of those, 88 of those students completed the student survey. The student survey that came out of this, we found 90% of the students found those ILP sessions helpful. During quarter 2, we had 8 teachers hold 96 sessions. So we had a little bit of a drop. Of the 96 sessions, only 3 students completed a student survey. And in the student survey is when we find if a little bit more information whether or not the sessions were helpful or not. We did find that out of the 96 students, 45 of them did have a conversation about assessment scores with their teacher. And then as of this past Friday, we had 8 teachers with 124 students again participating for quarter 3. And of the 124, 47 of those completed a student survey. And of those surveys, 94% of the students identified as having a conversation about their assessment scores with their teacher. Next slide. The data improvement team's aim for the school year was by June, we would have 100% of the teachers meeting with 70% of their students 4 times a year to complete a data dialogue within the ILP advisory course. So the OYA staff have always expressed their belief in the importance of regular student check-ins. However, as the data on the next slide is going to show, making the quarterly meetings a program-wide priority continues to be a challenge for us. Next slide. This graph represents the number of completed quarterly ILP advisory meetings with students. So you can see in quarter 1, which is the blue, we had 2 teachers. We had teacher 1 and 2. They prioritized the ILP sessions and they did meet with at least 70% of their students. And that they actually did that in all 3 of the quarters so far. Teachers 3 and 5 have consistently met with about 50 to 68% of their students. And teacher 4 during this quarter just was amazing in how many students they were able to meet with during those sessions. During the 4th and final ILP advisory PDSA cycle, which is coming up April 18th through the 24th, or through June 24th, we are going to center the test on teacher participation. The test will be designed once we analyze the Q3 teacher feedback. The PDSA cycles have supported our efforts in continuous improvement of the quarterly ILP advisory meetings. It has aided in recording and identifying our predictions, comparisons, analysis of gaps, adjustments to practice, and what our next test should be centered on. It has been an invaluable tool to our improvement work. Next slide. Thank you for your time today. Please check out our Inside Opportunity Youth Academy website, where we share program information specific to students, parents, and our community partners. Again, thank you. That was a lot of information.
Thank you, Dr. Everett, for the presentation. Council, would any conversation or discussion you'd like to have on this topic?
Dr. Everett, I'm just curious that when you were describing the approach, it reminded me a little bit of human-centered design practices. Is that, do those things kind of go together? Cool.
Yeah.
There is a lot of communication and connecting with the staff. They know that they're going through these cycles. They are not really those that are up on the balcony looking down. They're actually implementing. And I think that there's a level of appreciation in going back and talking to them about, especially with the feedback after every cycle. How did it go? What can we do to improve? What did you like? What can we keep? Yeah.
The plan is that for next year, we will start adding other components to those check-ins. So for college and career readiness, or meeting with the counselor, meeting with the college liaison, so that we're starting. The plan is to then have a full week or even longer of a kind of a stop in our schedule to meet with all of our students to be sure that they're on track or they're aware of their progress, and celebrating their accomplishments, and letting them know what the next step in their plan is. So that was the kind of the point of doing these ILPs, and then specifically working with our EL population, our special ed, our foster youth, our homeless, being able to coordinate those meetings with those student groups, because we didn't have this before.
Dr. Everett, just a quick question. Well, implementing this process, what have you kind of learned from it? What has maybe surprised you, or what you have learned?
So the actual process itself with the PDSA brings you back. It just is a continuous loop. And so it gives you an opportunity to monitor and reflect on, did that work? Did we have the right target for the test? And if we did, great. What would be the next, what would be the logical next test within the system? I think if you don't have something like this, you just kind of aimlessly go and you're not even, oh, okay, we finished that. Well, what's the next great thing that we can hit on, rather than really sticking with something and really honing in on what would perfect it or make it even better. And for this year, it really was it is the first year of the implementation, full implementation of the ILP advisory. It was born in 2019, 2020, and we all know what happened in 2020. So this was the first year of full implementation. Moving forward, like Ms. Morales said, next year we are going to add in a few other layers to that, and specifically in transitioning students from one grade level to the next, and then out into their career paths and community college work. So it's been, and it's a source of documentation. So you've got history. Yeah,
I really like the answer that you gave. You gave about really not having this be like the next great thing and then moving on, because and I know in nonprofits, I can speak for nonprofits, we're really great at that. We package it very well. We move on to the next, and we go, and it's kind of like, wait, hold on, we're not finished with that process, but it looks good.
Yeah, even to piggyback on Derek's point, you have this approach down now. You know how to build a cycle, and you can apply it to all the improvements you want to make, which is really exciting. I think one of the data points I would find interesting is the calibration among the conferences that take place, the meetings that each teacher is having with each student. And I wonder if there might be some variance and what you might learn from that variance.
That's interesting that you say that. I am in Q4 with the next cycle. One of the things I'm going to be asking teachers voluntarily, if I might be able to sit in on some of these sessions with students, just to observe and kind of do that exact thing and try to see if we might be able to do a little bit of calibration around that.
Or a fishbowl when they're ready. I mean, that takes some time to develop those relationships, but.
And that actually is
like a Socratic seminar type, like Socratic. Yep.
That actually is underneath one of our driver diagrams that we have not yet done. So thank you for that suggestion.
It's an
But-
avid strategy.
Yeah. Our OYA staff they're always ready to tell us their thoughts about certain things. And this is one, and I think this particular ILP or the ILP advisory, I think is starting to grow on them. And I think they're starting to see the value of it because of the feedback that the students are giving them. And they're, I think they're seeing that this is a valuable tool, not only just for them, but for the students as well. Yeah, but maybe a fishbowl would be something we could do at the end of the year.
Thank you so much. Our last item is our adjournment. I want to thank everyone so much for coming. It's been a while, and I want to thank you, Phil and Catherine, for presenting such wonderful work that you and the staff are doing. It really is incredible. Just coming out of, the pandemic and just all the pieces that were in place, and now you kind of, rebuilding and shuffling and learning from what we've just learned the last couple of years and putting those pieces in place too. It's really exciting. So the staff should be very proud of themselves, as I'm hoping you are too. I have a
Wonderful.
motion for adjournment.
Motion for adjournment.
I second.
Thank you, Governance Council. It's
Thank
wonderful
you.
being together again, and thank you for all the thoughtful comments and questions.
Bye, everyone. Good to
Bye,
see you.
everyone.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bill,
Yes.
is it still